Hello there. Welcome to yet another episode of Velocity by Hawky.ai. We have Vikas today. Vikas is one of the OGs in the digital ecosystem in India, and now he's scaling more than that as well. He has been someone who has built ROI-driven full funnel marketing agency before it was even a fashionable thing to do so. And it's not just that, he has also built three bootstrapped businesses in his journey, which is complementing to the social beat, the agency that he runs. And what makes him really special, and probably what would make the conversation also really interesting, is the fact that is someone who has always taken little contrarian decisions, like setting up a marketing agency in Chennai, which was probably one of the first big agencies coming from Chennai, and trying to bootstrap most of the businesses that he runs, and also try to build products as standalone units, but not just as, let's say, a department inside an agency and so on and so forth. And I really like him for the kind of opinions that he has about the landscape, the channels involved, and also working closely with the media or the platforms like Meta and Google and so on and so forth. I think we'll learn a lot from him. A huge admirer of his contribution so far to the landscape. Welcome to the podcast, Vikas. Happy to be talking to you.
No, thank you, Seren, and thanks for that really warm introduction. I think it's great to be here. I think you're doing something amazing at Talkie as well. So excited to be here.
Sure. Thanks, Vikas. So I just want to first start with one decision that I've always been thinking about, right? So I think mostly back in 2012, I think the majority of the digital marketing ecosystem, or in general marketing ecosystem, would have been based out of Mumbai or New Delhi and so on. But you started a social beat in Chennai, and it's now one of the top agencies in India. What was the rationale to start in Chennai? I mean, what was the considerations? Is it like the talent trade-offs between cost to availability and so on and so forth? Or what are the considerations back then? What were some pushbacks that you heard? How did you navigate them?
Yeah, I think the decision to start in Chennai was more from a zone of comfort, I would say. Me and
Okay.
Sunil both come from Chennai. We've studied here. We worked here. We also went out. So I studied in the UK for a bit and worked in Germany. And Sunil also, studied a little bit in Europe and then also worked across Singapore and US. So we've traveled, but Chennai is still home. Chennai is still where our friends circle. So I think that's really where the comfort came from. And we also had strong networks here in terms of our alumni networks, in terms of a lot of other networking forums that we were part of. So we knew that it would be easy to get at least the initial set of clients that we wanted. It really came from there. But I think as we started scaling, Chennai was a hurdle in some points. I think one hurdle was definitely the perception that can an agency out of Chennai actually deliver value which is world class and can deliver what clients wanted in Mumbai or Delhi or anywhere else. So I think that was a pushback, and but I think it's helped in many other ways because we had, like you were saying, I think in terms of cost of talent, in terms of retention of talent, in terms of
Mm.
the culture that exists in Chennai, the humility, the you have a much larger set of people who are more humble and down to earth, and that really plays into how the org has also played out in terms of culture in other cities. So in many ways, the talent, the culture has really been shaped with folks that have been in Chennai. Many of our Chennai folks have gone to Bangalore, gone
Okay.
to Mumbai. In fact, the Delhi office still is led by somebody who moved from Chennai with the Bangalore one. So in that sense, it's really helped us in many ways. But I think the Chennai part can also be a barrier sometimes. So we many times in the middle, I would say the first 2-3 years it didn't matter because we were just scaling. But after that, there was a point where we would not really highlight where we are from. We just said, hey, we are a pan India
Mhm.
company. We have offices in Chennai and Bangalore. So you wouldn't really want to plan it. Today, I think we can own it and say, hey, we are from Chennai because
Yeah.
we have enough offices and enough work across the country to own it. But I think it wasn't always that. It wasn't always that you could highlight it as a strength. Today we can.
Mm.
It may not always
Mm.
be. So you have to be careful of how you
Yeah.
position.
Got it. Got it. Because and when you set up the agents, I mean the offices in Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, and so on, was that because you wanted to sit next to the client or like nearer to the client and so on, or that was also like more for talent and culture diversification?
Yeah, I think it came from the need to be closer to clients because whatever said and done, and even though we are in the digital world, even after COVID, clients still
Yeah.
want us. in front of
remote
them.
and so on.
Brands still want those conversations. India is still a very high touch market in that sense.
Mm,
Over time, we've also moved up the value chain to work with larger enterprises, larger brands, more legacy brands, and they tend to definitely work more hands-on in person rather than virtual. So, which is why we said it makes sense to have local teams. But I think over time, we also saw that there were much stronger strengths in certain cities. So, example, in Mumbai, there's obviously much larger pool of creative talent. In Bangalore, there's a much larger pool of folks that look at growth and understand GTM a lot better. So I think that's also helped us in many ways to diversify the talent, but that wasn't the reason why we started opening offices. It was more from a client delight and client outcome sort of focus that we had.
got it. Got it, you guys. One thing I always wanted to understand from marketing leaders primarily is most of them don't come from a strict marketing educational background. Like they came from different domains and then they end up becoming one of the best in the field, right? So, what was that one moment that made you probably, let's say, uh, start marketing? I think from early on from your career, I think you have had some marketing experience. Then I think you had a HR experience. Then again back into marketing. So, like, when did you decide marketing is your thing and you started chasing that?
Yeah. I'm not sure there was a moment of time like that. I think, I started my
Okay.
career in HR, in fact, like you said. I started my career with the Taj Hotels in HR. And that at that point, I really felt that talent and people was at the heart of organizations, which it still is in many
Mm.
ways. And
Yeah.
a lot of my early learnings in HR have really helped shape what we do here. But I think as I started moving, I did my master's and then I did a role where I was the EA to one of the senior family members at the Murgappa group. And some of that really triggered the push to say that, hey, I need to do something larger. I need to be part of driving some sort of business outcome to be part of something bigger. And that's really, and I always had that startup sort of piece because that comes from this background of finance and business. He used to, you know, do unsecured loans to small businesses across the country. So we always had that mindset, but I think it was more from a business mindset and marketing just happened. I got a
Okay.
because I was in the Murugappa group and I was looking at different roles. They in fact had roles in the strategy team. They had some roles in HR as well and some in marketing. And the marketing one seemed interesting because it was marketing bicycles, which was BSA and Hawky
Mm.
bicycles. And it just seemed interesting. It was a fun category targeting a young audience. In fact, we were very, very early on in digital as well. So I just, when I spoke to a few people in the group and I asked them which company would make sense. And also because that company was the most sort of visible company in the group in the sense that it was one of the few consumer companies that the Murgappa group.
So, yeah, because you have been running Social Beat for more than 14 years now, what was ideal agency in 2012 probably is not a really ideal picture at this point of time, right? A lot of things have transformed, the landscape has transformed, the ecosystem has transformed. What is something that looked really ideal back then? Probably that's not the same anymore, and how a definition of ideal agency has changed over a period of time, Vikas.
No, well, that's a very interesting question, Sarina. I think the basics of marketing agencies have probably not changed too much, right? And the early creative agencies, I think the mandate always was how can marketing, how can communications, how can those teams create brand love and translate that brand love into actual sales of some kind. And of course, repeat purchases, all of that, right? So I don't think that's fundamentally changed from then even till today. So what David Ogilvy said about building brands to what it is today, I don't think too much has changed. The mediums and the channels have changed.
Mm.
But I think from an
Okay.
agency perspective, at least from a digital agency perspective, which is what we started, I think back then in 2012, the challenge actually was how do you show the value of it? And actually, some could argue it's true even of today. But back then, you couldn't really show that what you were doing on Facebook, what you were doing on YouTube was actually translating into some sort of forget even sales, like even some sort of brand love, it's some sort of helping you be in the consideration set of the brands that you want to be, right? So I think
Mm.
driving impact, showing that impact and selling the power of digital was actually a bigger focus back then. So
Mm.
and so hence the metrics, what you were tracking, what you were doing was very superficial in many ways. So we a lot of brands wanted to grow page followers on Facebook. We had this back then they actually had this really cool feature where you could play interactive engagement pieces within the Facebook desktop version. So we were creating
Mm.
those versions internally where you could have quizzes within the Facebook pages or you would have interactive pieces. So I think it was
Yes.
a lot more gimmicky, a lot more I want to be just part of it, so let me do it kind of space. And I think, we
mm,
just went with the flow. I think 2, 3 years hence, that's when I think Facebook, Google started saying, hey, can we help generate sales? Can we help generate leads? Can we help generate?
mm,
Google was doing it to some extent already in the very beginning, but it was doing it only for very small set of industries. But it started expanding into more industries, and Meta started saying we can do it for all industries. And I think it was around 2000, I would say 15, 16, that's really when the pivotal change of agency started coming, saying where brands said, I want to see the outcomes. And I think still true of today, where they want to see the outcomes, but they also want to make sure it's measured right, it's a lot more cohesive. And hence today, I think the ideal agency is someone that has moved away from doing micromanagement of what's happening on digital, because that world has gone away, but actually focusing on the bigger pieces, focusing on what does a brand stand for,
mm.
what kind of
Sure.
conversations you want to be part of, what kind of creative and stories that you can tell for the brand that will help the brand love really grow. And hence, how do you then
Mm,
track that to sales, leads, and whatever other metrics that you're tracking on the top funnel and the bottom funnel. And often that's not as easy as it sounds, because today the digital journey is so complex, right? Us discovering a brand, to us buying it on quick commerce, you can do all of that in 15 minutes. And earlier it
yeah.
used to take, months, decades to build brands. But today brands can be built in within months, weeks. And of course, deeper brand love still takes time, and it will.
Mm,
But
mm,
brand discovery and the journeys that we today take are very complex.
mm,
Today's agency has to be able to manage the complexity, to be able to measure the outcomes, but at the same time keep the brand ethos, the essence of the brand, and have the business side of the brand clear to be able to make that happen. So
mm.
that's really what the agency of the future would look like, where they do all of this and have a layer of tech AI to be able to do that. And doesn't mean you need to build all the tech and AI in-house. In fact, that's why we spoke as well, to see how do we use your solutions for our clients, because you have to be able to take what's the best out there, and you are good at certain things, we are good at certain things, but it doesn't mean we
Exactly.
can build the best products or the best technology for everything that exists out there. We may not be, that's fine, but being able to still keep the brand essence and track those business outcomes and measure it in this complex world with the use of AI and tech is going to be what the future of the agency looks like.
Got it, because now, I mean, just going a little bit deeper into that, right? What would the ideal agency of 2027 look like? I mean, next year, probably not really far away, but somehow feels that things are changing so fast and things are going to be so different as well. What do you think will drastically change? Let's say the team structure, the type of people that you employ, and the relationship between you and the client. Like how do you think that will evolve or transition? What are something that you are foreseeing already?
Yeah. I think at one end, I would just refute a little bit of what you're saying, Surya. I mean, the world is changing fast. Yes, I agree. Are the clients actually changing that fast? I'm not too sure. And I think, I was having this debate with somebody else as well, is that especially
Okay.
in larger enterprises and bigger companies, that change management of making sure AI, or change management of changing your processes to be AI first, I think that's not
Hmm.
happened yet, and it will take, right? So in that sense, the world is not changing as fast as you and I may think it's changing. You and I
Hmm.
may change
Hmm.
very fast, but can large organizations change very fast? Not really.
Hmm.
It's going to take time. So
Hmm.
that's something to keep in mind. And because we debate this internally a lot, right, as to how fast we need to move on some of these things, because we don't see the other side moving that fast.
Yeah.
But what
Got it.
does the agency of 2027 look like? I think, like I was saying, the fundamentals don't change. But what will change is you owning the outcomes a lot more, because brands are going to expect more from agencies, because they are seeing that there are more tools at their disposal. There is more speed that is possible because of AI enabled creative processes. They would expect a lot more in terms of deeper business insights, because we can do a lot more research using AI of what
Yeah.
essence is, what does it stand for. So I think expectations are going to still have outcomes as a big focus, but on all aspects of what you're doing, expectations are going to continue rising.
Hmm.
What's going to change is also that creative is still going to be at the heart of it, and measurement is going to be at the heart of it. These are the two big pieces we see becoming a larger focus than what it is today. And even within the creative ecosystem, the creators and the influencers, which are already big, are going to become even more bigger in 2027. So today there may be brands that don't have a creator strategy. By next, everybody will have a creator strategy, because we are seeing this across the board, where even traditional brands are waking up and saying we need to do this. I was talking to a large brand out of India that also is global. They're trying to now use creators in those local countries to make their brand. It's a make in India brand, but going global, and you have to use creators in those countries to connect with those
Yeah.
audiences, and that's going to happen a lot more
True.
going forward.
Got it.
And what in terms of team and what's changing also is that what we are actually seeing is you're going to need a lot of people at the apex in terms of strategy, in terms of relationships, in
Mm,
terms of being able to understand the businesses, and a lot of people at the
mm,
absolute lower end who are doing some of the transactional stuff, who are doing, let's say, creative adapts, who are doing media optimization on Meta or Amazon or Google. A lot of that base optimization work is going to drastically reduce in the next 12 to 18 months. And we're already using some tools around it. It's not perfect. Sorry. It's not perfect, but I think it's getting better and better really, really quickly. And that means with the combination of those AI tools to optimize, a combination of those tools to measure and understand incrementality and the impact, a lot of that is fundamentally going to change how planning of the brand, media planning, all of that will work. And hence, you don't need as many people to manage the scale that you had today. So,
mm.
but you'll still need a lot of that creative powerhouse. You'll still need a lot of strategists. You'll still need a lot of folks that understand the business and talk that business language with the clients and own the relationship with the clients. So,
Got
but
it.
frankly, we don't know how it'll change, but these are the directions in which we're seeing some movement.
Got it. Got it. Because and anything that you see with respect to the, I think you have been also been speaking about agencies owning the outcomes a little more vocally. I'll come to that part. But in this scenario of things changing and maybe let's say slightly different expectations and so on and so forth, how will the relationship with agencies evolve? And also, do you see any pricing model difference that you see foresee in the near future? Vikas?
Yeah, no, great questions. I think relationships are not going to change. Like I was telling earlier,
Yes.
India is still a high touch market. And I think globally as well, some of this holds true. You can still do it virtually in many global markets. But, we are seeing that relationships are still going to be similar in many ways because there are power plays, power at play. There's dynamics at play in terms of how organizations are structured, how hierarchies are structured, how brands look at their competitors. So all of those pieces in terms of making sure you're able to show them that even if you're delivering the outcomes, how do you package those outcomes? How do you help those brand owners internally succeed within the org? All of those are key elements
Mm.
of building those relationships, and that's not going to change too much in my view.
Okay.
What will change is what you said, which is how the scope is structured, how is the commercial structured. I think that's going to definitely change a lot, and we're already seeing some pushback from clients on models of how the creative is delivered. At what speed, at what price, at what scale of personalization. So all of those will make sure that maybe the transactional cost of doing something will come down. So transactional cost of making a
Mm.
creative may come down, but the strategy behind that creative approach, that's actually not going to come down because you still need
Okay.
folks to build the strategy of where brand A fits in vis-a-vis brand C, brand B, brand C, brand D.
Mm.
And a lot of that work in terms of strategy, planning, as well as creative strategy, all of that is going to be very, very important and continue to be there. But the pricing will change to having definitely some variables for outcomes. And we
Mm.
already, in fact, I would say for quite a few of our clients who are comfortable with that, we already have a variable model. And
Oh, nice.
we have a fixed model, and then we have a variable model on the outcomes that we mutually decide.
Mm.
Now, I say mutually decide because a lot of times B2C brands will say, I want X ROAS, you give it to me and I'll give you extra. But you need to have a balance because it has to be something that we both agree is
Yeah.
possible.
Yes.
And then hence you get an additional bit of commercials because of that. It cannot be that everything is outcome.
Mm.
There is a lot of competitive forces which are not in the control of the agency.
Correct.
It could be the
Exactly.
product, ingredients, packaging, supply chains, distribution, your retail presence, competitors doing something which is happening offline. There's so many variables that
Yeah.
I cannot go and tell a brand I'm going to own 100% of your outcome. That's not
Yeah.
realistic either.
Exactly.
Can you put your fees at stake and say, I will keep this portion of my fees as variable,
Mm.
only get it if I achieve this that we have decided together, right? And that's something that we're increasingly seeing brands want and agencies have to evolve to make that happen. And that also means you
Mm.
have to be great at what you do. You can't be a subpar agency and own those outcomes because you don't meet those outcomes, right? So in many ways, whatever you're doing as an agency, you have to be uh, at the top 5% of what you're doing, because if you're not, then long term it may be very challenging to scale those clients.
Got it, Vikas. Now, I mean, on the same lines, right, from an outcome ownership standpoint, if you're taking an outcome, as you rightly said, like there are a lot of external factors and the competition factors and so on and so forth. Uh, where do you probably stop? Like, do you also get involved into the product level decisions, pricing decisions, and maybe even the ICP level decisions, or where do you sort of draw the line? Of course, like for someone to take outcome, probably these are even larger items to solve for while we are trying to crack the digital marketing. So, where do you draw the line? And is that also something that have you seen pushbacks when you try to probably, let's say, involve into the product or pricing level discussions? And have you seen such occurrences?
Yeah, no, again, great question. I think, yeah, we do work with brands on the overall approach, but of course, not everything is in our control all the time. But it's our responsibility to paint the picture of what will help them meet those objectives. So especially for a lot of our clients where we're doing D2C and e-commerce and marketplaces and quick commerce, you have to have that competitive intelligence that tells you where is the gap in the product stack that you have, where is the gap with price point vis-a-vis the value that you're creating that you have. And it's not necessarily always price, right? It's about perceived value. So how, for
Yes.
the perceived value that you have for your brand, for your product, for this particular specs, what is it that you can deliver and demand, and hence you need to do something there, right? So all of those definitely play out in our, I would say, a lot more in our e-commerce and D2C first brands, and some of it also in brands which are, for example, real estate, because in real estate the micro market matters a lot, right? So if I'm selling something, let's say in Whitefield, I need to know for that kind of apartments or villas that are being sold in Whitefield, I need to understand what the micro market looks like, and without that
Mm.
I cannot understand what positioning I need to have for my project, because
Yeah.
it's like otherwise selling in the dark. So you need to know what is it that makes our project more attractive in that
Mm.
micro market. Sometimes it's not
Mm.
that obvious because maybe all the others also have the top five things that this project
Same.
has. That's possible. So then you have to find a different lever. You then play on the brand lever, you probably play on the price lever, or you over index on what we are really good at, which could be, for example, the space or the square feet or whatever, right? You have to find something that's unique about you in that micro market, right? So
Mm.
understanding the competition, understanding that, and then giving those inputs. It's not that you always have control over changing the product or changing the price, but you have choices of what to focus on. Can I over
Mm.
index on something which can help me drive those outcomes, right? And
Mm.
product level and pricing level decisions are a lot more complex. It's not that easy. Even if I give that input, doesn't mean it's going to get implemented tomorrow, because it requires a lot of. We're talking to a cookware brand, for example, and they sell across the country, and you can't just change a product. Like for them, it takes 12 months to get something
Yeah.
unique. Let's say you want to change product A,
Yeah.
change the specs to bring out product B. That's not an
Mm.
overnight decision. It should take a while
Mm.
to build that supply chain, to build that product, and then bring it to market at scale, bring it to
Mm.
retail at scale. So it really depends. I think D2C brands can do it faster, break faster as well. But the choices of where to focus, that's where we focus a lot more, basis the intelligence we get.
Got it. Got it, because and any particular example where you have seen sort of a pushback when you got, let's say, when you wanted to maybe, let's say, change the perceived value of the product, or maybe to go back to the drawing board for more elaborate product research or market research, Vikas?
Yeah. No, very interesting. Yeah, we've had many over the years, I would say, that because a lot of the founders, a lot of companies come with their own versions of what the truth is.
Yeah,
But when you start talking to
exactly.
customers, you realize that the truth is a bit different.
Mm. Mm.
One of the personal care brands we worked with wanted to be pegged as a, very premium luxury brand. But when we started looking at that space and saw what kind of brands exist and what kind of ingredients positioning that they had, it wasn't large enough as a difference to command that premium.
Mm.
And hence
Okay.
we had to go back and say, hey, you need to relook at your entire product stack,
Mm.
be able to win in this market. And
Mm.
that's obviously tough because the founder comes with his or her sort of views on where
Yes.
they're at and their own biases that determine. what is to be done. So yeah, it has happened, but I think a lot of the larger companies, that's why they take a bit longer, because they take a lot more time to understand and synthesize that consumer research a lot more as to where the gap
Mm,
it is, what kind of products they need, what is that they need to do differently to make this happen, and that takes time, yeah, to be able to.
mm,
Yeah, you can do a quick analysis, for example, on Amazon reviews, right? It's public information. Pick a
yeah,
category, go to Amazon, you can find a gap. But only when you talk to customers, you'll get to the nuances of what that
real.
means, at what price point will that gap really work at scale. And those are nuances
Mm.
that take time to kind of figure out.
Got it. Got it, because no, that's great actually. And yeah, of course, like for the founders, I think that's more like something that they have sort of already married to as a
Yeah.
concept as well as a product. It will become really difficult to probably, let's say, show the reality at times. But yes, I think that's great. I think getting cues from review channels and so on, I think that's really good. I also read, I think you have one of the best retention rates in the industry, right? So, what is something that you can advise to us or to maybe other fellow budding agencies in the space in terms of what what are the recipes for such a high retention rate? How do you sort of ensure that any top two or three practices, policies, or culture or skills that you would recommend to ensure high retention rates?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would say our retention rates, they have been great, but they do fluctuate. There are years where it's higher, there are years where but we have tried to
Mm,
keep it much better than the industry, as much as we can. I think what has worked for us are a couple of things. One is, at the heart of it definitely is the culture and the values that you have as an organization, right? Because you need to be able to
mm,
have, that is something that people have to resonate with, and you have to check for this before they join. So we do check. We have a value, you know the 8 values that we have, and checking for those values during the interview stage is an important checkpoint for us, because that tells you whether they're going to stick on in the longer run, whether it aligns with their personal values or not. Sometimes it may not align.
mm,
The second, I would say, is also around being able to focus on learning and excellence, right? Because a lot of folks today want to be at the forefront of what's happening, and that means you need to like be curious, continuously learn, and also have a team that's helping you learn and grow and make that happen. So that culture of learning, culture of excellence, and making sure you're doing great work is I would say, the second part of it. And a subset of that great work is also having great clients. Because if you don't have good clients, that was actually one of the reasons we started looking to get more brands across the country and across larger brands, because we knew that excited teams. That's the work that you want to be part of. That's the work that you want to flaunt off with your friends. That's the work
mm,
that your family would be proud of you, saying, "Hey, you're working on boat, and everybody knows boat," and you're like, "Hey, I want
mm.
to be part of that journey." Right? So,
Yeah.
you know, and so that learning and excellence and having the right brands that they can drive that excellence, I would say, is the second big bucket.
Mm,
And third is probably, you don't need to be the best paymaster, but you have to reward and share that wealth, right? So I would say, I
mm,
don't think we are the absolute top percentile in terms of remuneration, but we do share that wealth whenever we can, right? So the years where the growth was phenomenal, we've shared that wealth with the team. Years where
nice.
growth is sometimes not as high as you would want it, then you kind of uh, your team understands that, because they've seen in the past that you've
Mm,
shared that wealth and you've
for
given those
sure.
kind of increments that are much higher than industry. But there are years where it's
Mm,
not, and those are the years also when your attrition does fluctuate a bit, because some of the older folks do understand that, hey, yes, this is there are. It's not that every year is going to be a blockbuster year
yeah.
and will continue growing. There are years where it will correct a bit, and you will have some adjustments, which is part of us as an organization growing up as well. But
Mm,
the fundamental point of view of the founders being able to share that wealth with with their team has really
mm,
helped us also scale. And sharing that wealth means, at some point we were also giving 2, 3, 4 increments in a year to some of our top talent, because it didn't matter. Like, if you're doing great work, more clients are coming. What is the harm in giving that increment? Because
yes.
we want you to scale and grow as well. And those are the folks that have
Mm,
stayed with us over the years and continue to be with us as well.
great. Great. I think you brought up one really great point. Like working with great brands, in turn, sort of, let's say, increases your top talent retention, and that also sort of helps with the client retention as well. All right. So, and that's a really underrated emotion, I guess. Like flaunting, working with a great brand to your family and friends. I think that's a little bit underrated emotion, but it's a really great feeling to be there. Great,
And that's
Vikas. I
actually
think.
something we focus on when we're trying to expand out of Chennai as well. And this was an input we got from another entrepreneur that advises us.
Mm,
Is that he said, for example, Casa Grande is a large builder in Chennai.
yes.
But if I go to Bombay, nobody knows Casa Grande. So do I really want to talk about Casa Grande in that conversation? Maybe not.
Mm,
They may know a Brigade or a Prestige, which are also clients. Do I really want to talk about brand that's not so popular in the market that I'm going to? And these are
mm,
important nuances to making sure you're perceived in the right way. So
mm,
even though it may be a large client for me, it's
mm.
irrelevant for the perception I want to build in that
Correct.
mindset of the client. And that
Yeah.
can help you
Yeah.
get the right kind of clients. So if they perceive that you work with these
Mm.
kind of brands, that can help you get the right talent and the right clients as you go along.
Got it. Got it. Because no, fair point for sure. Now, let's say, especially with respect to hiring, right? Like lately, two angles I wanted to talk about or get your views on. One is what is the type of new talent that is being needed for the new landscape or new ecosystem, right? Like, are there any new skills or traits or characters that you are expecting newly from any new hire that you probably was not expecting in the last year or something like that? That's one. Second is, are there any new type of challenges in hiring in the first place? Now, with the workforce also going through massive transition and their exposure and everything else also have gone through transition as well.
Yeah, I think the base, like we've often tried to judge more for values than for skills, I would say, Sunil, because in the world we live in, skill sets will change.
Yeah,
Expertise
yeah.
that you need to have will change, right? And
Mm,
some core teams, like for example, creative teams, yeah, you need to check whether they are able to think of new ideas, tell stories. So yeah, there's some technical skills do matter. If you're a media team member, yeah, you need to have some basic data, Excel analysis skills. You need to be able to analyze numbers in your mind and not just in Excel. So yeah, some of those basic
mm,
technical skills still remain relevant, but I would say a lot of it is still cultural in terms of values and what we stand for. And the other important trait, which is softer, is sort of curiosity and learning. Because what we've seen is folks that have succeeded with us are folks that have actually been curious, folks that have been learning, folks that
mm,
take that learning and say, can I try this out for this client and see what happens? And are constantly trying to do something new, right? So that curiosity, I think, is something we try and evaluate by understanding what are they doing, what have they tried new, what have they learned new, how have they implemented new learning in their previous job. So a lot of that curiosity learning
mm,
is one piece that we've seen become more important and probably going to become even more because we all have to spend time learning the new skill sets. I myself spent almost 75, 80 hours a couple of months ago just learning the new AI pieces. And because otherwise, in your day to day, you don't get time to really
yeah.
immerse yourself and learn it, right? You cannot say, and you said the world is moving fast. It is moving fast. But if you don't take out time to learn how it's moving fast, you're not going to be able to adapt
Mm,
to your workflow.
mm,
And that's what we see
mm.
even in our teams, right? The workflows get adapted only when you take out the time to be curious and learn those pieces. So
Correct.
that's curiosity learning is one big piece. I think two is, so cultural is one, curiosity learning is two. And third, I would think is just the ability to, I would say, build relationships both internally and externally. And I think that's going to become even more critical because a lot of the tactical stuff is going to go away. What will be left is actually relationships
Mm,
and talking to people to understand their businesses. And often that comes with somebody who understands how to build great relationships, right? And that's something that we are actively looking across teams. Even if you're not a
mm.
account manager, even if let's say you're a creative team member, you still need to be able to build relationships. You need to still be able to go to a client
Yes.
and communicate your story, right? So that building relationships is going to be very important.
This might become a quick hiring 101 for myself as well. How do you evaluate or judge these values in over an hour or two interview? Because I'm actually personally struggling, especially lately. It earlier in my previous org, I've hired a lot, close to 200 to 50 folks as well. But now I'm finding it increasingly challenging especially with people being able to prepare for the interviews really well and also having much more exposure than someone normally would have in the same, let's say, at an experience level or at expertise level, right? So, in this, as you rightly said, weighing values and character more than skills, I think is something that we should do. And but any advice on how can we sort of, let's say, judge these values in a very short conversation?
Yeah, in terms of hiring for values and judging those, I think, we've have actually a structured framework we give in our team saying for this value, these are some of the questions to nudge them to answer, right? For example,
Mm,
one of the values we have is integrity. So one of the things we ask them for that is, when was the last time they had a ethical dilemma and what did they do,
mm,
right? What did they choose? What did they want to do with it? Um,
mm,
the other one is, for example, like, just humility and sort of being able to respect, right? So mutual trust and respect
mm,
somebody. So we that you need to judge by how they are, how they're reacting to
mm,
you, how they're talking to you. So some of it is behavioral, which you can observe, and
mm,
some of it you can ask questions and make that happen, right? So even in terms of, for example, eye for detail, like eye for detail is one of our values, and you can judge that from even the CV, right? Like
yeah,
seeing if they have any errors, have they missed something, are they
yeah,
saying something, but actually the CV says something else. That tells you that that level of detailing is not as high as you would want for that specific role. And especially for
mm,
certain roles, it's very critical for us. So then, we try and judge that some of it is behavior, some of it is what they tell you, and some of it is going deeper into the question, right? Saying, you
mm,
told me
mm,
this, okay, tell me one level more, tell me one level more, right? And as you start double
mm,
clicking on that topic, you'll understand whether they are actually telling the truth or not. For example,
mm,
even client at the center, we actually asked them, when was the last time you had a conflict with a client? What did you do?
mm,
Whose side did you take? The
mm,
company side, client side? Did you
mm,
do something? We asked them, did a client ask you to do something that you think was wrong? What did you do? Did you still keep the
mm,
client at the center, or you just did it because you just
yeah,
want to get by, right? And then you start digging deeper into the answer they give. Then you'll know
mm,
whether they actually did what they said they did.
yeah. Got it. Got it.
Again,
Because
I
great,
mean, we're
great.
also learning. It's not. I don't think it's a perfect way to judge for values. And a lot of times you
Right.
do get it
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
Like you said, they
Uh,
sometimes candidates do prep for it. They have a
yeah,
game face on. They'll tell you something they do you, but when they join, it's something else. So that can happen. It
yeah,
still happens to us also.
yeah. Sure. Yeah, it used to happen, but now I feel it is happening little more frequently or like little more commonly, I guess. I don't know. This my read lately, actually.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Sure, Vikas. I think this is great. Now, you have also, I wanted to understand how you have nailed the art of building products and spinning it off as a product company separately. I think you have done that twice, right? I think with D2Scale as well as with influencer.in. While I've also seen a lot of agencies probably struggle a little bit in productizing their offering or let's say in building in-house products in an effective manner. And I think you have been very vocal about creating that as a separate legal entity, separate team, and separate ownership, and so on and so forth. Is that a recipe, or like, is there any? How did you manage to build this? Is there any playbook that an agency can adopt to build successful in-house products? And what would that eventually be? Will you be able to even expose it outside the agency and sell as a standalone product, or is it only for strengthening your own ecosystem? How are you seeing that?
Yeah, I think this is actually a foresight, Sunil had early on saying, how do we productize it? And this came from his consulting days as well, right? And we tried a bunch of things, right? I think vernacular was one of the pieces we were excited about. To scale, we've done a few interesting things, and we have our influencer product. But I would say that not all of it has been successful at scale at the extent that you'd want. I think the most successful amongst this would be our influencer product, where now we have almost 1 million creators, and we also have Google and Meta both as our clients there. So that tells you that there is something that's definitely working well there. And we have large scale campaigns for that, and do large scale work jointly with the platforms as well. So the playbook there, I think what we realized early on, and this was an advice from Ravi, who's been a mentor and advisor for many, many years, is the ethos of a agency ecosystem, which is service oriented, vis-a-vis a product company, is very different. And you have
Yeah.
to, it's very difficult to marry both with the same culture, with the same org. So even though today
Mm,
they may sit in the same physical space, but they do have different leaders, different cultures, different ownership, because you need to think about it a little differently. Because the product
Yeah.
development, the cycle of improving the product and taking
Mm,
care, demoing it, all of that is very different than a service-based industry. That was one of the reasons why we said we have to keep it separate, even if it means they may sit in the same space, but there is a separate area, there is separate focus, there's separate P&L, there's separate everything, so that there is a dedicated focus.
mm,
The second thing
mm,
I learned is you have to be able to, and again, me and Sunil are not techies, so you need to have a strong CTO. Often, product companies have founders as CTOs. At least one of them is a
mm,
product lead, right? For us, that's not the case. Still is not. So we had to then get in folks that could actually come in, help
mm,
us bridge that gap, because we had the business understanding, we had understanding of the gap in the market. But if you don't have strong engineering and tech expertise, then that product will not be great, right?
got
And
it.
sometimes those products have to be really deep, right? So that's why influencers work really well, because we've gone a lot more deeper. We now have, it's completely AI enabled. We're doing competitive benchmarking real time. We're able to analyze
Mm,
brand A versus brand B. What does their content look like, and show
mm,
you analysis instantly. So all of that, it has to go deep. But for some of the other products, we've not been able to probably do that. The 22 languages, which was a vernacular piece, we didn't manage to build an engine that was good enough. And we needed
mm,
maybe a much stronger, deeper expertise on machine learning and
mm,
languages to be able to do that, which we didn't manage to do. We were still doing it, I would say, manually at scale, where we were
mm,
using our own teams. We were using creators and influencers to make creators at scale. For one of our brands, one of our consumer app brands, we were doing 500-600 videos a month with different creators across the country. We've done all of that. So we were doing 22 languages, kind of with a little bit of tech, not too much.
yeah, yeah,
Those products have not really worked out well for us. But I think our philosophy has always been, give it that focus, give it that uh, dedicated leader, give it that investment to be able to do that, because it is an investment for at least 12 to 18 to 24 months, because it takes that long for a
yes.
product to be able to get to a point where a client can see value in it, and hence
Mm,
it can happen. Even we're building right now, we're building something on the AI visibility front. That's can,
okay.
and there are many AI visibility tools out there, but we said we have our own view on what that should look like, and we want to build that, and we are taking that live later this week to our
Oh,
clients.
nice.
And I think there's a lot you can do. I mean, building a product today, frankly, is not that difficult. There are enough. In fact, this AI visibility tool, we partnered with somebody because we said we want to get there faster. Let's work with somebody who has got a lot more expertise in building these out. And we said, let's just do it. So it doesn't always have to be in-house all the time. And that's one of the learnings we've had
Mm,
also, is there may be some products you want to build, or some
mm,
features and pieces. Either you partner, and let's say we partner with Hawky and take to create a solutioning piece, or you say, I want to build something and find a tech partner who can help you build it out for you, right? And
yeah,
sometimes you
yeah.
feel it's really core to your business, then you say, hey, now I'm going to build a team internally to drive this, right? So the product and tech stack has to be a lot more, it's a complex decision. So we've had
Yeah.
to make those calls as to saying, what are the things we want to do in house, and what are the things we are okay
Mm,
to partner with somebody, because we may never be world class in that space. So then it's fine not to do it at all,
mm,
because we're not going to be world class in that space.
mm,
Even if it's for a market, even if you say I want to do it only for the US market to start with, that's okay. But you have to be world class in that market with
correct.
what is available there. So you have to understand the landscape and then build it. Building a product is easy. You can build something in a few weeks these days, right? It's not very
Mhm.
complex. But to build something that clients find value, that takes time. So you have to invest into it,
That takes time.
and want to, if it's core to your business, then take out the time, energy, leaders, and
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, I think 100% agree. Like the building has become much, much easier, but building something what brings value as well as what is something that is uh, able to show iterative value over a period of time as well, right? I think that's where a lot of time goes in. Building part cumulatively might only contribute to 20% and more to do with iterations and refinements and so on and so forth. That currently
correct,
takes more time.
correct.
And now when an agency like yours builds such products and you have influencer.in and other products as well already built it, now will there be attempts or are there already been attempts in selling this as a standalone product to maybe other brands and other agencies, or this should be perceived more as a moat, maybe moving forward, right? So for your agency, like how are you seeing it?
Yeah, we've largely used it more as a moat and as a differentiator for what we do. We do have smaller agencies that use our influencer product, for example. We also have some brands that directly use it at their end without a managed service. But I think,
Mhm.
a large part of the product is built to be able to have a moat and
Okay.
be able to do things at scale, right? So one of the top ups
Yeah.
on that product, for example, is we've just launched our AI voice agent to be able to make those initial filtration calls to, for
Oh,
example,
nice.
Suryan and hey, we have this campaign which seems to be in your space. You'll be interested. This is the brief. You say yes or no,
Mhm.
ask questions, and then basis that, at least we are able to do an initial filtering of which creators are interested in this campaign. Especially for some things where we're doing, for example, one of the BFSI brands we're working with, we have to activate 5,000 creators in the next few months. Can't do this manually. It's not
Mhm.
possible. Right? So,
Mm.
uh, and can a voice agent be built by anybody? Yeah, anybody can build it. But when it sits
Mm.
on top of our product and we can deploy it from there with the context, that becomes really interesting. So I think for now we're keeping it as a mode, but we to keep evolving it to be, like I said, world class. That's when it starts making sense. Maybe at some point it will change, but at this point we don't have plans to directly take it. And today the influencer product is used as a way to generate leads for us. Even today, Surya,
Okay.
you sign up and you get free
Mm.
credits to go use the product. Even today, you can do that, right? But that's not really where the revenue comes from. So we use that more as a lead generation funnel to say, okay, from the few thousand users that came in this month, these 25 seem to be from brands and companies that we want to work with. Let's reach out and
Yeah.
understand what they want. The balance, use it, it's fine. It's not our focus. So there is a SaaS version with credits live, but that's not
Mm.
really been a revenue driver.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And PLG, cracking PLG also takes a lot of time, iterations, and dedicated effort into that as well. All right. Great. Yeah.
Correct.
Understandable, because I wanted to understand a little bit about the evolution of channels from you, right? So when I say I'm talking about the paid ad channels, like it started with, I think, Meta and then Google, and now I think you have also spoken about TikTok, Snapchat, and so on and so forth. How are you seeing these channels evolving? And now with the closer to conversion kind of channels like your quick com as well, especially in the India market, really successful and heavy. And I think you have also spoken about the full funnel happening within the same channel, while like earlier the funnel used to look completely different. Now the funnel is totally different and so on. How do you see funnels evolving with respect to the channels evolution that has happened so far, Vikas? And what are your takes on some hot channels that are going to be mainstream maybe in the next 4 to 5 years?
Right. Yeah. What's going to be wasted 4 to 5 years? Nobody knows. Neither do I. But I'll touch a bit about what's evolving. But in the channels,
Sure.
yeah, I think the funnel, what I actually spoke about was the funnel has actually got inverted. Earlier, the funnel used to basically look like saying, hey, there's a large awareness bucket, and then it kind of becomes
Yes.
smaller and smaller. It comes to conversion. But today, actually, because
Mm.
of e-commerce, you can discover and act on it, and you get it in 10 minutes. And
Okay.
basically, the funnel got over in 10 minutes, right? So, but I think that's happening only in certain categories for now. It's happening a lot more in FMCG, staples, or certain categories where it's really large. So food, personal
Mm.
care. Yeah, I think those categories are being disrupted a lot more because there the funnels have completely changed and collapsed and evolved. But at the same time, if you look at it, consumers still love certain brands. They still love, they may still love Sugar Cosmetics for something. They may still love Kama Ayurveda for something. They may still love Dove for something, right? So I think that still remains, and brands are going to continue building those funnels for the longer term benefits of the brands and be
Mm.
part of the conversation, right? But at the same time, they need to
Mm.
be able to capture that attention, capture that conversion when it happens. So it's not easy. I
Mm.
think it's a complex world we're living in where you have to have different KPIs for each of those, right? So you have different KPIs for your brand, but you'll have different KPIs for your, let's call it, omni-channel sales, right? Because your
Mm.
sales are happening offline, online, marketplace, D2C, quick com, and you look
Yeah.
at the funnel and say, okay, my direct sales funnel, what does that keep? What are my KPIs there? But you still need to have
Mm.
brand KPIs because it's very rare that you can only survive on the bottom of the funnel metrics. So even if a brand is
Mm.
discovering you on quick commerce and buying you, you still need to build brand love for the long run. And in fact, one of the
Long run, yeah.
B2C brands I was talking to in the food space, they're doing phenomenally well on quick commerce, but their Instagram handle and brand piece is very weak. I said, yeah, you're surviving because
Mm.
your bottom funnel and the full
Yeah.
funnel of quick commerce is great, but that doesn't mean you're reaching out to more consumers over a period of time. It doesn't mean they understand what the brand stands for. It doesn't mean that
Mm.
long term, if some competitor comes and edges you out because the quick commerce bidding and distribution game changes and you're edged out,
Yeah.
they may not look
Yeah.
for you anymore. So
Yeah.
it is important to keep that in mind. But the funnels have sort of collapsed in that sense, right? So it's an evolving
Mm.
space for certain categories, and more categories will get impacted because of that in many ways. And the
Mm.
expectations change. So even if I'm doing one of the brands we work with, they still want to focus on D2C. I said, yeah, we can, but then you need to match the expectations that consumers have from marketplace and Bitcoin, which means you cannot say I'm going to deliver in 5 days. Nobody's going to wait for 5 days, right? Can
Mm.
you deliver within the next? Can you ship it on the day the order comes at least, right? Can you have to
Mm.
evolve to meet the expectations that these channels are pushing customers to be. That impatient
Yeah. Yeah.
customer wants things now, right? They want the food in 15 days. They want the delivery in 10 minutes. So they're not going to wait for 5 days anymore, right? So brands have to evolve to get to that, and hence the channels are pushing them to kind of get there. And that's why when Google Meta pushed and say you have to move and build on these trust factors because they no longer are optional in many ways. To your other
Mm.
question on which
Got it.
channels, what's evolving, I mean, frankly, 5 years is a very long time. We didn't even know, you know, when Instagram started, nobody knew, right? So Instagram has only been around for less than 15 years. So it's very difficult to say which channel
Yeah.
will supersede. But what we are seeing is definitely, in fact, the 2025 advertising numbers tell you a story. Global 2025 numbers tell you the fastest growing platform basis the publicly shared data is Meta. They
Mm.
grew 24% globally in terms of advertising. Whereas Google's advertising revenue
Mm.
grew only by, I think, 7%, if I'm not wrong. Amazon grew more than Google as well. It grew, I think, somewhere in the teens, 13 or 14 or something
Mm.
like that, right?
Sure.
So consumers are loving TikTok and Instagram globally. Those are the top two, and I don't see that changing at least in the short to medium term. So the next 18
Mm.
to 4 to 36 months, I don't see that changing too much because
Mm.
they're also are at the heart of social conversations. They're at the heart of building
Yes.
culture. In the US, YouTube is much larger. In India, it's large, and now they're pushing YouTube Shorts because it's still uh, and YouTube Shorts is very big in the US, and I think it's starting to now pick up pace here. So I think the key platforms are not going to change a lot. What will
Okay.
change, I think, is we are seeing a lot more. I think we should expect a lot more interesting things on the variable side. I
Okay.
recently was testing out. Meta was kind enough to give us a pair of the Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and I was testing it out. Absolutely phenomenal, right? Like I was taking calls with it. I was listening to music, all hands free, and I could talk to
Okay.
Meta AI directly on without even pushing a button. Right? I just say, "Hey, Meta,
Yeah.
what am I
Yeah.
looking at?" Right, and it'll tell you what you're looking at. Right? It's phenomenal, right? Actually, demoing this to somebody where you take a packet of a food product and I ask for the ingredients information, and you're going to see
Mm.
consumers are going to start adapting to this. And Meta, in fact, gave us a very interesting insight, which I didn't know, is half the world, 50%
Mm.
of the world actually wears
Mm.
specs or some kind of
Oh.
corrective uh, corrective glasses or lenses. So that market
Wow.
is
Okay.
ripe for uh, some sort of movement, and they've brought it down to form factor and to a price point where it can become mainstream in the next 12 to 24 to 36 months. And competition
Mm.
coming. So that's going to push the price down. It's going to push innovation up. More
Yeah.
apps, more things you can do on the voice with those variables. And I think that's going to be an exciting space. The variables with the display is still first generation, but I think in the next two,
Yes.
3 years when that becomes better, that's not great yet. I tried that out as well. That's not great. It's very average at this point, but it directionally tells you where we are headed. And I think that's going to be an
Mm.
exciting channel of sorts of how do you make that happen. And I think increasingly what we're also going to see is the Google plus AI search or AI prompt
Yeah.
is going to become huge. It's not yet huge, even though it seems like it is. Google's traffic has not tipped yet. Gemini is actually inched up. The latest data actually shows Gemini is inched up and taken up market share in the last 90 days from ChatGPT. And ChatGPT's usage has actually come down for the first time
Yeah.
when they started, right? So, but that still means there is going to be a lot of disruption within the LLMs, and LLMs plus Google search and users discovering new brands, researching for the brands they're looking for. I think that's the channel that
Mm.
we are super excited about, which is not necessarily in the social space or a digital space in the traditional sense, but it is going to disrupt many things. And a lot of that sources
Got
still
it.
come from digital, right? Which is a lot of the sources come from LinkedIn, YouTube,
Yeah.
comes from
Social.
Reddit, it comes from other places. In fact, our AI visibility tool tells us what those buckets look like. And we are definitely
Yeah.
seeing brands are going to relook at that strategy. Reddit is going, community forums are going to become super important because that's where users give out true feedback about brands that they love and brands
Yeah.
that they hate. And LLMs love, right? So a lot more true stories, reviews, which are out there in community forums, that's going to become even bigger than it is today. But these are
Correct.
the movements that we are seeing, which is your variables at one end, LLMs at the other end, community forums at the other end.
Mm.
These are a couple of pieces that we see evolving a lot more.
Interesting.
But the baseline social platforms, video platforms, we don't see that changing too much.
That's not there. Got it. Got it, Vikas. Super. Great. Great, Vikas. I think we'll have a quick rapid fire session. I have some 10 quick questions. You can answer it pretty short as well. If you want to go in detail, yes, of course, but I think you can answer it pretty short as well, Vikas. So the first one brand in India whose marketing you genuinely admire. What would be that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Super tough one. Zomato.
Okay. The founder marketing or in general,
No, it's the
whatever they
brand
do?
marketing. I think
The
they get
brand
it on
marketing.
point. I think
Right.
they've been the pioneers in that.
Okay. Sure. Got it. And one brand that's burning money on marketing and everyone pretends they are not looking at it.
Cred.
Okay. Sure. It's a little hot take. Will Meta still be the dominant performance channel in 2030? I know you already answered a little bit, but yeah, what do you think?
Tough one. Nobody knows. I don't know. It could be ChatGPT. You never
Okay.
know. ChatGPT just launched ads.
Got
So
it.
tough answer. If you ask me
Yeah.
next year, Meta, yes.
Meta. Okay. Got it. And if you have to bet social beats entire revenue on one emerging platform for the next 3 years, what would be that? Meta or actually emerging platform? You should do anything below Meta or something new.
Let's say ChatGPT and LinkedIn maybe.
Okay, interesting. And one influencer whose content that you genuinely admire lately.
MKBHD, that's my favorite creator. He's a tech creator who's on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. I love his content too. I mean, I saw multiple videos of his OnePlus 15 review before buying that. Switching
And
from Apple to OnePlus.
I've
I got
actually learned how
interested.
to create content from him, right? The storytelling style, what he
Wow.
does, it's
Yes.
fantastic. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
his hooks are really good. Not salesy, not cringy, but really, let's say, to the point, right? I really love his content. Yeah. And in India?
India, I think Nikhil Kamath is amazing. I think I watch a lot of his content. Yeah. His podcasts are pretty
Got it.
amazing. Yeah.
Got it. Now, since you have a lot of work experience with influencers, with influencer.in, one influencer, or let's say, uh, one influencer marketing tactic that sort of pisses off people.
Yeah, I think making it look fake, it's not part of your life. So you have to make sure it's real with the life and the life that you've told the users about you.
Mm.
For example, let's say I've been talking a lot about health and stuff, and suddenly I'm promoting, let's say, good flipping burger or KFC, right? Like that doesn't make any sense. You have to be true to that. And we've seen creators do this, and where they do something one day, do something else the other day. I think users can see through it.
Got it. Performance marketing in next 5 years. Will their game remain pretty much the same, or it will go unrecognizable?
Tough to say. I think it'll be very different. A lot more
It'll be
agents
very different.
involved, a lot more LLMs involved, a lot more. It might be tougher. I think as agents
Mm.
evolve, it also means maybe tougher to get into new brands. So, if, for example, the
Mm.
agent knows that I love, let's say, it knows I love Samsung, it will never show me Apple.
Anything else? Yeah.
deeper biases possibly, but there may be ways to tackle it. So I think it's a complex world.
It'll become totally unrecognizable to
Yes.
what it is right now, right?
Yes.
Got it. If you could uninvent one marketing term or buzzword, what would that be?
Interesting one. Viral content, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Because it's not predictable or it's overrated.
Yeah, it's overrated. I think just one viral content doesn't take the brand places. It's consistent conversations in a
Yes.
certain direction that take the brand somewhere.
Got it. Cool. If you had to start Social Beat from scratch with zero funding, right? What would be your first move? Hiring or like coming up with product or like what would be that?
Yeah, talking to customers and understanding what is the solution or product I want to offer. I think that would be the first thing. I would have that hypothesis, have that plan in place. So talking to customers, talking to prospects, and
Got it. Got it.
and then
And
again
one last
after
thing.
that would be like
Yeah.
hiring your core team of 2-3 people that will build it with you.
Hmm. Okay. One last question. Let's say tomorrow, if whatever, let's say your agency is doing is probably, let's say, 70 to 80% is getting uh, automated through, let's say, either Meta or Google or anything, anyone, I mean, agents or anything for that matter. What would be your move? What would be your immediate step in finding an opportunity or in probably, let's say, will you be thriving in that opportunity or will you be, let's say, searching for an opportunity? What would be that?
Yeah, we hope to thrive. I think the business understanding is an important part of this puzzle, right? So while
Yes,
the way we look at it is the agents, the tools can help you get to where you want to get to, but the deeper understanding of the business, the brand, the competitive landscape, while AI tools today can do it, uh, you know, amazing work still comes from human beings and humans
yep,
being the loop
yep,
with AI, right? So, which is why we are looking at increasingly getting in folks that can drive that strategic value both in terms of business strategy and creative strategy. Because if those are the
mm,
two that will continue to become critical pillars for us to thrive in that future.
yeah,
There are a lot of the, like you said, a lot of the base level agency work need not necessarily be done by as many humans as it requires today. But it'll still require some
yep,
humans even there. But
yes,
it may come down by 70%, 80% in the next few quarters. But the business strategy and the creative strategy is what will help us thrive is our view on it.
got it. Okay. So maybe a quick reorg is what something that you would do to thrive in that
Not quick.
scenario.
I think we've been moving towards that already. Like it's a journey that
Yeah,
we started taking
yeah,
about, I would say about a year ago and moving towards that already. So we don't replace talent at the levels that where we feel that those teams are going to get disrupted more. So we don't replace those hires, but we replace
yes,
that talent somewhere else in the org where we feel that's and continue
got
building
it.
that business strategy and the creative strategy. Like I said, those two pieces we've been strengthening and we keep adding as the business grows.
Got it, Lucas. I mean, it was a hypothetical question that tomorrow, if that happened, what would be the scenario? But yes, I got your answer there.
Yeah, tomorrow, if it happens tomorrow, then it will be a challenge.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Great, Vikas. I think thanks a lot for this. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Likewise,
I think
great questions.
you really you really gave a lot of views that probably someone would want to practice or someone who'd want to understand how the ecosystem is evolving. Because someone who has seen that for so many years and who is also as attached to AI and who is as attached to sort of evolve together as well, right? I think it's rare to find such archetypes, and you are one such person. So thanks a lot for being a so let's say cool guest in the podcast and giving a lot of information as well. And looking forward to working with you for a long time, because
No, likewise. Thank you so much for having me here. It was great and great questions, and glad to share what I've learned. And I think I'm still learning how AI actually works. There's so much happening, but look forward to learning from you and what he's doing as well.
for sure. Because thanks a lot. And
Thank
finally,
you.
one thing, would can you recommend one person that can be a part of this podcast in the subsequent episodes?
Okay. Someone who's building an agency or a brand or either. Hello, sorry. We looking at somebody who's building an agency or a brand or anything is fine.
Okay. No, anyone like who can share really great views about digital marketing ecosystem and the both AI based ecosystem or the in general the digital marketing ecosystem.
You should talk to MVS Murthy. He's a
Okay,
CMO in the banking space, and
sure.
he was one of
Yeah.
the first few folks that trusted us on our creative storytelling, and he's a great storyteller himself, and he deeply understands how marketing and digital work. I should continue to embrace more.
Yes, because that will be super helpful. And thanks for the referral. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, you guys. Looking forward to working with you. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Likewise.
Thank you.